Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Dr.Bhawani Adhikari. Today, he has come with a new story. This is written by Leo Tolstoy. The title of the story is God Sees the Truth But Waits. God Sees the Truth But Waits is a realistic story written by Leo Tolstoy. It is a religious story that gives the moral lesson of waiting for justice from God. Ivan Dimitrich Aksinov is the main character of the story. He was a merchant. He lived in the town of Vladimir. He was a handsome and fair-haired fellow. He was full of fun and very fond of singing. When he was young, he used to drink too much, but after he married, he gave up drinking except now and then. One summer, Aksinov was going to the Nizhny Fair and he said goodbye to his family and wife, but his wife told him not to start the journey that day because she had had a bad dream about him. She saw in a dream that when he returned home and took off his cap, she saw that his hair was quite grey and it was a sign of bad luck. But Ivan did not care about it, and he said that it was a lucky sign. He promised to sell enough goods and would bring her presents from the fair. He met a merchant on half a mile of his travel. The merchant was familiar to him, and they spent the night in the same inn in their adjoining room. But he had the habit of getting up early in the morning. When he had gone 25 miles, he stopped for the horses to feed and rest. He started playing his guitar, but suddenly a police officer arrived and began to ask many questions as if he were a thief. He was a police officer in the district, and they searched his bag. They found a blood-stained knife in his bag. Aksinov got surprised, and he was nervous to know how the knife was in his bag. He was told that the merchant with whom he had spent the night was found, his throat cut. So Aksinov was taken to the police office and whipped him as a criminal. His wife with a child came to meet him, and she told him that she had petitioned Tsar to free the innocent person, but it was refused. She asked him whether he did it. Then Aksinov thought that even his wife doubted, and he wept and believed only in God. She reminded dream her dream, but it was meaningless now. Aksinov was taken to Siberia jail, and he spent 26 years in jail. He was gentle, and he knew that only God knew the truth. He had to appeal. There is a two. He had to appeal. There is two is missed. To appeal the God, and he had to wait for his mercy of him means from the God. He was flogged and he was wounded by the Norse, but in Siberia he was called the saint of the jail. He bought the book, The Lives of the Saints, and studied in the prison. The prison authorities liked Aksinov for his meekness means gentleness, and his fellow prisoners respected him. They called him grandfather and the saint. He was the spokesperson of the prisoner. When there were quarrels, he had to act as a judge to decide right and wrong in the prison. One day, a fresh gang of convicts came to the prison and they were introduced. They were asked what crime they did and where they came from and what they were sentenced for. Makar Semyonich was from Vladimir, and Aksinov raised his head and asked him if he knew Aksinov family. Then Makar told him that he knew well about them, and he told that Aksinov was in the prison as a criminal. But Makar did not know him because Aksinov was old, bearded, and bent. Aksinov knew from his conversation that Makar Semyonich was the murderer of the merchant. Later he told that he wanted to kill even Aksinov, but there was a noise and he put the knife in his bag of Aksinov and he ran away in the midnight. Then Aksinov was sentenced as a criminal in jail. Then Aksinov stopped speaking with him and wished God to give him justice. One night Aksionov found Mocker digging the tunnel in the prison to run away from the jail. Then Mocker told him to be silent about it. If he told about it to the authority, he would kill him. But Aksionov did not tell him anything at that time, and the prison authorities wanted to find out the person who had dug the tunnel in the prison wall. Mocker thought that Aksionov would tell the truth about it, and the prison administrator asked Aksionov to tell the truth, but he did not because God did not allow him to do so. He never opened his mouth, and it was dismissed, and Mocker felt sorry for his crime to Aksionov. That night he went to Aksionov and asked to forgive him for what he did, but Aksionov told him that God would forgive him. Mocker wept and decided to confess his crime, and Aksionov would be released from the crime. But Aksionov did not like to go home, and he wanted to die in the prison because nobody knew him, and he did not have any wish to go home. Next day, Mocker confessed his crime to the authorities, and the letter came from the authority for his release. But Aksionov had already died in the prison. Thus the truth about the murder and the crime was found out at last, and he was proved to be crimeless. It shows that the truth comes out sooner or later, but it needs to wait, as Aksionov waited for 26 years in jail. In short, this story, God See the Truth But Wait, is a Russian story. It is written by Leo Tolstoy, and Aksionov is the main character of the story. He was good, honest, handsome, hair man. He was gentleman, businessman of Vladimir. One day he wanted to go in a Nizhny fair, and his wife had a dream, and in a dream she had seen him when he came back from the fair his and took out his cap. His head, his hair had become gray, so it was a bad sign. But he took it, lucky sign, and he went. But when he went half of the mile, and then he met one merchant whom he had known him familiar, and they took tea together, and they spent the night in the same inn and the adjoining room, and he had the habit of getting up early in the morning, and he set out from that inn before it was down means morning, and then he did not care about the merchant, he did not ask about him, and when he passed 25 miles, and later the police officer came there with his other policemen, and he was the officer in the district, and then he asked many questions to him. He was playing guitar at that time, resting there in the inn, and his bag was searched, and his sword, blood-stained sword was found. In fact, this sword was put there by Mocker Seminids, because he had killed his friend, he had taken his money, and even he wanted to kill him, this Aksionov also. But there was a noise at night, and he had put that knife in his bag and ran away, but he did not know about it. And he was taken to the police. He was flogged, he was whipped, he was beaten. There were wounds in his body. When the wounds healed, and he was taken to Siberia. But before taking him to Siberia, his wife came there with a child. She also doubted him either he murdered or not. And she told him she had put the request letter to the Tsar, but it was refused to release him. And he spent 26 years in the jail. And after he was called good man, gentleman, grandfather, saint there in the jail, he had purchased a book, Lives of the Saint. He studied there. He was very good person, honest person in the jail. He was the judge of the prisoners. When there were quarrels and people used to come to him, ask him to give the judgment, and he was the best. And even the authorities of the prison found him the meek person, gentle person, honest person. And one day, new group of criminals were brought there, and their introduction was taken in the evening in the jail, and they were asked where they were from and for what crime they were sentenced. And then there was Mokar Seminis, and he was from Vladimir. And Aksinov asked if he knew Aksinov family there in Vladimir, and Mokar told he knew everything. They were rich family, they were honest family. And see, even the old man was in prison because of the crime. And from the conversation, he knew that he was the criminal of the murderer of the merchant. And he did not ask him, he did not talk to him, he did not like to speak to him. And one night he found that Mocker was digging a wall, tunnel in the wall of the prison, in the prison wall. He wanted to run away. And he asked Aksionov not to tell the truth. If he told the truth, he would kill. At that time, Aksionov told he had already killed him for 26 years. And he had nothing to just kill now. And he would tell or would not tell. He was not fair about it. And next day, the administrator of the jail wanted to know who the person was digging the tunnel in the prison wall. And Mocker was afraid because Exino might tell the truth. And if he had told the truth, he would have been beaten. He would have been just troubled too much by the administration of the jail. And Mocker was afraid of Exino, but Exino did not tell about it because he thought there was no use of telling the truth, because even if he told the truth, he would be beaten. That mocker would be beaten, and there would be nothing except like taking revenge. And even the administrator requested him to tell the truth. He did not tell. He remained silent. He did not open the mouth. And later it was cancelled. It was not asked. And at that night, Mocker came to him. He realized his mistake. He asked forgiveness. He wept and cried. He kneeled down. But Aksionov did not tell anything. Aksionov also was weeping, and he said that God would forgive him. Mocker decided to confess his crime of 26 years before killing that merchant, and then this Aksionov would be released from the jail. And this Aksionov told he had no wish to go home because nobody knew him. His wife had forgotten, his children had forgotten. Now he wanted to die in the jail. Next day, Makar confessed his crime, and the letter of release of Mr. Axino from the jail as an innocent person came from the authority. But Axino was already dead in the prison. This is how the story ends. But the story shows that we must believe in God. If there is no one to tell the truth, if there is no one to believe or find the truth, and there is a God who knows the truth, but it needs to wait. And the justice comes sooner or later to the innocent person. And Aksionov got that he was not a criminal. He got the justice from the God. He was found out that he was innocent. He was punished for the criminal in Siberia jail for 26 years in vain, meaninglessly. But he was proved that he was honest. He was the best person. And unfortunate thing is that he did not have to go back. He died in the jail because of the pain, because of suffering. So this story shows that sometimes we should believe in even in a dream. These dreams are also the concept of giving information what it would be about the future. And other idea is that the story has brought the real situation. Sometimes the criminals put us in the tragedy, in the trap, an innocent person also become the criminal, and the criminal can be escaped. So this is the system of finding the criminal through the proof. Only the proof is the defect. Sometimes even saint like person like Exinob can become the victim and have to get the punishment unnecessarily, as he got 26 years punishment in the Siberian jail. But the God was there to prove him that he was not the criminal at the end. This is the story. Thank you.